Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much. Thank you, Nikki, for having me here. I appreciate it very much. We're going to talk about something that says all on your screens right now. Does anyone know that word?
Let me keep your guys.
Yes. Who doesn't know what futsal is? Is that? Don't be shy. We're all here to learn, right? Everyone knows a little bit of futsal, that's why I'm assuming you're all here. Okay? So, what do we know about futsal? A little bit of a history, right? Does everyone know when it first started? Officially, by FIFA. First World Cup. Does anyone know when the first World Cup was? Charlie?
89.
1989. Where was it?
Holland.
Yes, in the Netherlands. Okay? First one. But it started being played way earlier, in the 1930s. People know it as five-a-side. We probably saw different versions of it, I'm pretty sure. You know, we see indoor soccer with a soccer ball, etc. But we've started seeing more of it in Canada. In Ontario, how long has it been being played for? More or less. Ontario, I think, is one of the early...
Over 30 years.
30 years? Different variations of it, but...
32 years in Ottawa.
Okay. So, in Quebec, where I'm from, we've only been really starting it since about 2014 or so. But we've been having indoor soccer with the same type of rules for the soccer ball since probably, I want to tell you, the 80s, mid-80s, late 80s. Okay? But Quebec, now we have more heavy-duty leagues. Okay? Men's, provincial league, and we actually have 3 divisions this year. We have the Gatineau region, Montreal, and Quebec City. It's growing. We also have a women's division only in Montreal with 8 teams. So it's growing. In Ontario, is there any leagues? Provincial leagues?
Provincial?
No.
And it's been around for how long?
32 years.
Long time. And it's not a provincial league yet.
Since 1990.
And in Quebec, it's been around since 2014, and we already had a provincial league in 2015.
And in BC, it's 1982.
And is there a provincial league?
No, there was.
Okay. Folded?
Yep.
Okay. So we all got to go back home, and we all got to start planting the seed again. In order for something to grow, you got to plant that seed and water it. So this is what we have to do if we want this sport to grow. Now, sure, we can say first Canadian futsal referee, pioneer. I maybe could have still decided to stay in soccer and carry on in soccer. But I grew up playing this sport. I grew up refereeing indoor soccer, and I enjoyed it very much. So I figured I'm going to be the first person who's going to keep helping people grow this sport and on the referee front. And I can give you guys as much advice as I can to help your leagues grow, because I could see it happening in Quebec. So if Ontario could do it, BC did it one time, could it be brought back?
Absolutely.
Okay. Anyone from Alberta? Because Alberta, I think, has a provincial league this year.
And Manitoba does too.
Okay. Baby steps. We're going in the right direction. But let's keep growing the sport together, okay? Futsal. Obviously, futsala, some places they call it in South America. It was derived from the Spanish, Portuguese word soccer. Futbol, futsala. Different places call it different things, but indoor soccer, futsal. We know it at FIFA as futsal. Now, I think there are some other organizations that have it similarly, that have their own World Cup and stuff, futsala, right, or something like that, that are not recognized. But let's just say that we all know this as futsal. They wear white pants? Okay. That's true. So, do you guys know that some great players, such like Pele, Maradona as well, who started with futsal, okay? They all started playing futsal because in most countries in Europe, and especially South America, Brazil, Argentina, what do? All children start playing futsal. And now I started seeing these documents that came out for soccer. U4, U5 have to play 3v3 now. At least provincially, I started seeing these documents coming out. So I'm starting to see a trend if we're starting to put our children playing 3v3 in soccer, why can't we just put 4v4 or 5v5 playing futsal, like all these great soccer players in the past did? And what made them great soccer players was that word on the first slide, futsal. Because they developed the skills that are required to become better, and not only better, but great soccer players. But part of my presentation today is to show you the other side of it. Showing you how they become great at soccer, but why does futsal linger? And it is always back, behind, always a few steps behind soccer. Does anyone know? No idea. Somebody want to take a stab? Don't be shy. Nikki?
It's not supported enough or taken seriously enough by membership as being the official indoor game.
Good.
There's
They
more
would rather
money in
have the
soccer.
turf fields and the giant tennis balls than the futsal.
Sorry, your answer?
There's more money in soccer. Players get higher salaries.
You can fill more people in a stadium in a soccer game
Yes.
than you can in a futsal, right? So it comes down to money. That's what it comes down to. It comes down to money because they don't want to build giant stadiums for people to watch futsal. Would you be able to watch a futsal game on a small 40 by 20 pitch in a giant, or let's say at the Azteca in Mexico? You know, you would probably need binoculars to watch from the nosebleeds. To see what's going on.
Binoculars to see the soccer field from the nosebleeds there.
You know what I mean? So this is why it's going to linger always in the back. But all the great futsal players go to soccer. But not only that, this gentleman, I know everybody knows the gentleman, okay? He has said it clear. He is the person he is today because of futsal. Okay? He is. Welcome. So he is Cristiano Ronaldo. Everyone knows him. But he says without futsal, he wouldn't be the player that he is today. So, you guys like Pele would say the same thing, Maradona. All the same. All these guys right here will attest for futsal, making them who they are. And I'm pretty sure you can name every single player in that photo. See what futsal does for soccer. It's crazy what futsal does for soccer. Let's look at some photos here. We recognize some referees in this photo. Some of them are in the room today. Right? So you have two referees. I have a little button here. So to the left, you have Mr. Philip Dujic. Does anyone know who Philip Dujic is? He is a soccer referee today. What else do you know about Philip?
He's the fourth official on the Vancouver game tonight.
He's the fourth official on the Vancouver game tonight, which plays in which league? Oh, okay. Soccer. Okay. See myself there with the FIFA badge. Okay, so I'm your futsal guy. Who's the gentleman standing to my right? On the photo, not literally to my right, I'm there. Does anyone know? Dave? You know? You don't know him? Okay. No one else? Okay, Michael Venn, who just recently became a national soccer referee. Ding, 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 soccer, again. Ooh, yeah, we have you. But you love futsal, right?
I was a futsal referee first before.
There you go. Were you, this was the same tournament? This was your first tournament, right?
I think so, yeah.
Gabrielle's first tournament as well. Does anyone know who Gabrielle Lemieux is? Did you raise your hand? Okay. Who is she?
She's a referee.
Okay. More specifically,
Which sport?
Soccer.
what is her level of referee? Assistant referee. But she was a futsal referee before she became a FIFA assistant referee. Ding, ding, ding. Follow my trend here? Philip Guy. We're all a little bit younger. That's gray hair.
Except that.
Except that. This was, I think, the second national championship in Durham.
2016, yes.
Yep. First women's futsal national. It was a game played, exhibition game played at nationals, and we had a trio of women referees refereeing those games. It's very good to see this. But this was the first time. And what's going to happen this year in 2023, Calgary, Alberta? We're going to have our first what? Women's national championship. Futsal's going the right direction. 2015, the first ever Canadian futsal championship.
Yes.
David,
Yeah,
Dan was there. The referee to the middle left, Serge Topalian. Does anyone know who Serge is? It's okay, I'll talk about it on the side. 2016, Quebec Soccer Quebec, and the French Football Federation did a symposium together. That same year, a couple of months before, I went to France for 1 week and trained with the futsal referees in France. Do you know what they do in Europe that we don't do here with futsal and soccer? I know Gord knows something like that. I'm not gonna ask Dan. Anyone else? Who's from Europe? Anyone? Where from? Sorry? Scotland? Okay. Do you guys have futsal in Scotland? Not much? Okay. But when futsal's being played, when is it being played? If
Here in the winter.
no, in Scotland. When do they play it?
Anytime.
Anytime?
For the weather.
Okay. And soccer, when does soccer start?
It's 9 months.
It starts from August till May? Okay. And futsal goes on about the same time?
Was it?
That's what I'm trying to get at. It does. It goes on at the same exact time. In Canada, we have soccer season, and then we have futsal season. So referees are refereeing soccer and futsal. It's hard to concentrate on one, is it not? You're always active 12 months of the year. Do you ever take a break? You never take a break. We're burnt out. Referee numbers? Nikki, how are the referee numbers doing?
59% 2019.
Plunging. Could be burnout. So in Europe, I'll tell you what they do. When I was in France, when I speak to the futsal referees, they go, they all look at you, ref soccer? Are you crazy? That's what they all tell me. I said, you're crazy, come on. And the same thing with players. Players are only playing in the futsal leagues throughout fall, winter, spring for soccer and futsal. Referees are only focused on futsal. And the soccer referees are only focused on soccer. So you focus on one and you do a rep. Do one thing, do a rep. Right? You guys probably heard that saying. But we don't do that here. Maybe something has to change somewhere. And we might have to do that. Because I can tell you right now, I'm not refereeing soccer this summer. I'm focusing on futsal. So the season's going to finish after April 20th. When does the national championships finish? Around then. So that's my last futsal game potentially this year. Then I relax and I train all summer long. No soccer. Okay? So that's one thing that the FFF said is if you keep doing this, you're going to burn out your referees. And that they said that in 2016 when they came here into Canada. And 59% down since 2019?
We have 59% of
Retention.
2019, yeah.
Is that for both futsal and soccer?
Referees.
Referees, yes.
The referees.
Or if you split it out, I
If
think
we
maybe
split-
there's more.
Did you
futsal
split it out, Nikki?
retention.
Did you
I
see what?
could. You have to give me a few minutes.
So she'll get that for you.
Is futsal only indoor in Canada? Do you have outdoor futsal?
I've seen it played outdoors, if conditions are right.
There's in Spain one time, I saw Mallorca one time. It was
They,
outdoors.
they started developing more out, so old tennis courts that are abandoned, they convert them in some areas to futsal courts. They just put up 2 nets and kids could play all day long if they want to. In
There's a few
Japan, they play
outdoor
outside?
courts in Montreal and Toronto.
I beg your pardon?
There's a few outdoor courts
Yes.
in Montreal and Toronto.
We
The
have
MLS
one at-
once had one, I think.
Soccer Quebec. Soccer Quebec has an outdoor one. They play in summer as well. So this was last year's national championships out in Gatineau. How many teams? Eight teams for men. Last year competed in Gatineau, right after the 2-year hiatus, right? 2 years we didn't have any champions because of coronavirus. The first ever, 2017, Canada Futsal Instructor course was given. Were you there, Dave?
I was.
So these were all the participants, including myself. Dave was next to me there. Joe,
There too.
rest of the soul, Bob was there as well.
Right side.
So that was the first ever one. And I'm sure there's been more that have been given over the years, but we still have to have also futsal instructors to help teach the new referees. So, going back to some of these referees that we've seen. Serge Chapalia. He's now retired off the national list, but futsal made him a national referee. Vishal Ganache, former national AR, former FIFA AR, and former MLS AR, was a futsal referee before he became a FIFA assistant referee. Philippe Tekesi, also, same thing. I did, with Richard and Phil, we did the first Quebec Cup final together. I was trying to look for a photo of us 3, but I couldn't find it, I'm sorry. On my old computer that somewhere, gone somewhere, but it was a former AR, but he was a futsal referee too. Current active referees that were all futsal referees. These are all on CSA's website, but they're all there's all futsal base. Okay, you see which leagues they referee in. Philip, MLS today, starting. Lias as well. I think Lias is working somewhere in Atlanta. But not only referees. What else? Mohamed Farsi signed Columbus Crew. 2020 Futsal Player of the Year for CSA. See where we're going? Futsal helps these guys get jobs. Yadina Abzi. I refereed him in high school. I know him when he was playing in high school, I was refereeing him. Played futsal all the time in Quebec's Premier League. Played semi-pro in Quebec. Played for York, I believe, before he got a Division II contract in France. But a futsal player. Pierre Lamotte, now just signed with Pacific FC. Obeng Tabi, Halifax Wanderers. These are guys that I've seen referee. I've been refereeing for a few years. They're all from futsal, but something happens, right? So they all sign with pro MLS teams like Moyes, signed with Colorado Rapids this year, and Charles Auguste from Creighton University, I believe, just signed with Houston Dynamo. Futsal players. Yes.
What positions? Mainly.
Says midfielder there at least.
Mainly, is it more attacking players or also?
I will probably going to tell you yes, they are more attacking players. If you want to look at it that way, yes.
Midfielder, attacking midfield, wingers, strikers.
From what I could tell you, yes, pretty sure. But you get where I'm going at with this? Futsal's doing this for soccer. I'm not going to stay off that topic, okay? But ask yourself the question, what is soccer doing for futsal?
Rewriting their laws again.
Rewriting their laws. Sure. Big pat on the back. Rewrite my laws. Anything else? Charlie, what's soccer doing for futsal? I know you've been an advocate for futsal for the longest time. But what's
Since
soccer?
82.
Sorry?
Since 82.
I I spoke a little bit, I don't know if other people were in the other room,
You can stand up.
in the futsal presentation this afternoon, or this morning, with the Brazilian fellow and the FIFA instructor. And I said, soccer has changed, or futsal has changed the game of soccer in terms of the goalkeepers, because they're better with their feet now, and a lot of Brazilian goalies, both of the Brazilian goalies in the Premier League played futsal, and they're great with their feet. And the trend in all the games now is the goalies participate in the play in whatever way, either as a release mechanism or moving the balls quick. So that's changed the game, and also the way futsal is played with the interchange of position. You mentioned, is it a defender? Or, futsal plays both. You have to play both positions, and you have to keep the shape. You have to do all that other stuff in futsal, and you have to be prepared. So it creates opportunities in the outdoor game where I talked to the technical director at FIFA, and the way that they're training some of their players and the wing backs and all those positions. If you look at the way futsal is played in terms of all the different positional play, you'll see some of those trends in the way that the wing backs move. And so futsal has changed soccer. Whether they want to admit it or not, it has changed it in some ways. However, and you said it right, it is two different sports. Even though the skills are transferable, and you can play both, but if you just want to play futsal, there are leagues, maybe not in Canada as much, but in other countries there are leagues that you just strictly play futsal, and that's okay. But the skills are transferable, and the fellow this morning said, and it's confirmed, confirmed from my research and experience in futsal, is that in Brazil, under 12, all they do is play futsal or street soccer. There's no organization. There's no organized soccer. And he said it rightly, the scouts and the coaches look at the futsal players to get them into their clubs and academies after 12. So it is, in Europe, it's very big now. In Asia, it's big. It's 177 countries play futsal. And we're one of them, but we're not keeping pace with some of those other countries. So I think it's, and just I'm a member of the CSA board, and I've been an advocate of futsal, and what we've done, hopefully, to create a structure so the provincial bodies will consider futsal as one of their sports and help and promote it. But we, as a Canada Soccer, have to provide you the opportunities with coaching education, all those other type of things that are happening now, that are going to happen now in the next 6 months or so. There will be coaching education programs and certifications. However, if you take those courses as referee courses and you don't have any games, you're seeing there's no value to it. What's the point? So we're hoping that people will start promoting futsal in their areas and their provinces in order to make it another sport, to make it fun, exercise, another activity. FIFA recognized there's now Women World Cups that are going to happen for FIFA, so it's going to be more equitable. And there has been World Cups since 1989, but I participated in 4 before that, prior to FIFA being involved in the game. FIFA only took over futsal in 1989, and that was the first year. But before, it was another organization, because that was the only other organization that existed in the world. But now the risks are, if we don't do something as an organization, all the other unsanctioned leagues that are playing are being run by another organization, but they're not sanctioned by FIFA, and they're not sanctioned by any organizing body in Canada. So that's the biggest risk that you have. If we don't do something, there's futsal played in every province. If you Google it, you'll see futsal academies, futsal groups.
If I can say something, what I see from the club's point of view is the biggest drawback for futsal is it has to be played on a hard surface. Our club, for example, has got 2 domes, and they're all artificial turf. You know,
Yeah.
if they were allowed to play futsal on an artificial turf, I think you'd get a lot more clubs willing to play futsal.
You can't do
What's
that.
stopping you?
You can't play.
Where is it? We don't have any information.
Yeah, you're correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can play, you can adapt the game. You can adapt the game to your particular surrounding situations. I mean, not everybody has a big size court that you can play 20 minutes, stop time for 2 periods, because you might not have that time available. You can adapt all that stuff.
See,
It's
clubs
just
need
for
to be
national
told
or
that.
international games that maybe that's a
Can
requirement.
you get that information out to the clubs that they can play on artificial?
Sure.
I mean,
I'll ask this,
Because
yeah, sure.
most people think, and
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but most people think it's played on like a gym floor.
Most people think that. yes.
That's what most people think. That's just,
Yeah.
so that puts, it clubs off of actually having futsal.
Sure. And that's the ideal service, but it can be
You're
adapted.
adaptable.
I'll find out.
Thank you, Charlie, appreciate that. So what I like, Charlie, one thing that he mentioned was coaches scout players, right, in football, okay? But do you think referees are also scouted while they're in futsal or soccer?
Maybe incorrect.
So all those referees that I showed you, okay, they all went to a national championship at some point. But they all got a FIFA or national badge at some point. Do you think I were not watching them during those futsal national championships? Okay. So even referees are being scouted from futsal to become national referees or international referees. So futsal still suffers because those referees go to soccer, and the futsal pool has to always keep finding referees to feed the soccer. Okay? Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate that. Canada. Has anyone followed Canada since 2012 and World Cup qualifying?
Yep.
And Alex probably did. Charlie, I'm sure you did.
Futsal World Cup qualifying?
Yeah?
Specifically futsal World Cup qualifying.
Yes.
One goal away.
Just want to make
So,
sure it's clear.
in 2012, okay, they had to play a qualifier to go into the tournament. And they ended up beating Panama on goal aggregate. And they got in to advance, but they lost all 3 games. Okay, against Guatemala, USA, and Panama. 2016, I remember pretty well, I watched it all. We beat,
Scored a beautiful goal too, just ice it.
yes, so game 1, I believe we were down in game 1, and we came back, we were down 4-1, and they scored at the end.
3-0. US tied it in the last second.
Yes, so we were down 3-0. We came back to take the lead 4-3 with about a second or 2 left. USA tied it 4-4. But we went to the second game and beat them. It was the greatest moment to see Canada beat the US and the US go home, which already been to World Cup before. The goalkeeper scoring the 5th goal. That's what So, and then they advanced to the group stage. They lost to the heaviest favorites in CONCACAF. Costa Rica, only 3 teams. Costa Rica was like, oh, where did Canada come from? Where did they come from? Oh. And only 3-2. Then we beat Curacao in the second game. Then to lose to Cuba in a heartbreaker. Could have been a couple of red cards for Cuba in that game that weren't an issue, but
We only needed a tie.
we only needed a tie, and we could have got through to the World Cup in 2016, which was in Colombia. And then 2021, where I was there, okay? Canada got to the quarterfinals. So I think it was 13 teams. They got to the quarterfinals, and they lost on kicks from the mark. How close can you get? All they have to do is get to the semifinal both times. They couldn't. Just missing that one little thing. What is that one little thing that Canada was missing, you guys think?
Competition.
Okay, I think some of these players play in decent competition.
But they're playing arena league games. They're not playing futsal.
Okay, so,
And they're not playing together, they're playing in separate teams.
okay, so tell me this, why can't players like Mohamed Farsi, 2020 Player of the Year, play for Canada in 2021?
This soccer contract,
What's the soccer contract say?
play my sport, leave my team.
Okay, but you could do soccer, play for your national team, but you can't play futsal for your national team. Futsal suffers, again,
Same as beach soccer.
same as beach soccer. So where you gotta go find players? Lower down. And that's why we're gonna keep suffering. That's why in 2024, if we don't figure it out by next year, why these guys can't play for our national team, we might not go to another World Cup. Like I'm not go penalty kick again. They were one kick away. They would have scored, could have went through. It sucks, but yes.
Sorry to talk all the time.
No, you're not talking about it.
FIFA is looking at that in terms of making regulations a little tighter for futsal, that teams must release the players if there's a qualifier. They haven't established it yet, but they're looking at that,
Music to my ears. I like that, Charlie.
similar to the outdoor. But that's what they're looking at, because it's exactly the problem that they're encountering in some other countries, you know.
So tell me how it would look like if Portugal qualifies, reigning World Cup champions, right? If now all of a sudden Cristiano Ronaldo, hey, you want to come play for Portugal? What are the things that happen in the futsal world? Media.
Or Brazil, Neymar.
Neymar goes back to play for Brazil. What do you think is going to happen? Messi goes to Argentina. Or it's going to explode. It just takes that one thing to get those soccer guys who the base of futsal to play for their national body and represent Canada at a World Cup. That's all it's going to take. But the problem is we keep rotating our players every 4 years because they go to soccer.
So I'm just listening to the conversation. I think when you mentioned earlier on, and I wanted to kind of ask you this, why is it, so it's kind of connected to two things. You mentioned that soccer is not, so the two are different sports.
They're different sports with interchangeable skills.
Right, but at the same time, if that's the case, then it doesn't make sense. So if you look at the way futsal and beach soccer happens, if I'm a coach that would like to retain Ronaldo and honestly, I'm not going to let them, or I'm going to discourage them at least from participating in a game that's they're at least perceptually, they could be a potential injury. They could much more contact. And so on and so forth, right? So there could be some structural, so what I'm suggesting is that there could potentially be some structural things with the games as well, right? And the other thing is, I would say, for me, I'm not too sure if I would call it two different sports, right? The skills and the physiological kind of participation is very similar, to a point where it's like very kind of,
Potato, potato.
well, right, but I think that my point is about the thinking.
Correct. You know what my opinion is? And this is strictly my own opinion. I think it's an insurance policy. I just think it's that. The club doesn't want to release him because he's going to get injured playing futsal, but they're okay with the fact that he's going to play soccer for the national team. Yes?
Now I changed it. Why Falcao, one of the greatest
Yes.
futsal players, is never called to the national team. So why futsal players don't play in soccer teams, like you mentioned that, why Messi, Cristiano didn't play in sport?
Because Falcao's corazón is for futsal. He stayed with Ricardinho at the same time.
Both of them had offers to go, and they took it.
Sorry?
They could be.
But I think that they have more skills than
I think they
to
do,
be
but
part of
I
the.
don't think they want to maybe run 100 meters on a field anymore as opposed to just pivoting.
I'm not talking about those specific guys, in general.
Yeah, in general. I'm sure there's possibility, because I'm sure guys like Ricardinho would want to represent Portugal too, but he chose not to because he wants to stick with that. 'Cause sometimes it's a personal thing, but the problem is when you're given an offer to play soccer, in my opinion, That you can't get an offer you can't refuse. And the problem is, I think that's kind of the thing, and I'm sure there's insurance things and legal matters in terms of the player's contract with that. But like I say, if we do the right steps, and I've seen kids have selection camps first time, I think that's the end of the last year. Much younger team for futsal. He's taking futsal, young kids that probably still are in school before they get a soccer contract. So that he might have a fighting chance at qualifying for 2024 World Cup. He got rid of the Freddie Mugins, Ian Bennett's, who, by the way, as 40-year-olds are in the best shape of their lives. Probably better than some of those 20-year-olds, but you know, they have to keep up with the pace, unfortunately. And I've been there firsthand, seeing how they play, how the Costa Ricans play, how the Guatemalans play. They play fast. And they play on the streets, like Charlie said. They play on the streets. They have those tennis courts, you know, or whatever they can find. They probably play futsal on sand, for all I know. They do. But, you know, they're able to keep pace on Canada all the time. It's something new for Canada. But like I say, those players, I want to see like those players who play soccer that are very good futsal players have the opportunity, at least try giving them the opportunity to play for their national team in futsal when they're called up. That's what I would like to see, because I think then Canada becomes a threat, in my opinion. CSA, National Futsal Championships. I've seen it all, so you could see the teams, how we've increased over the years. I'm sorry, 2022 went down to 6, but I think we're back to 8, Charlie?
Yeah.
We're back to 8 this year. Women, how many women?
8.
Start with 8, why not? Bang. I would have thought 2, 3. 8. It's great. 8, great. Oh,
And 2 Indigenous women's team, 1 Indigenous women's team and 1 Indigenous men's team, so.
beautiful. It's great to see that. So,
All
and we mentioned,
of the territories are putting teams in this year.
oh, futsal. Growing. Music in my ears. That's that part. Now, I just want to touch one more thing in terms of myself.
That doesn't seem to talk about yourself.
Yeah, I'm talking about myself, sorry.
Yeah.
Just right on.
Open it up.
Yeah, you can.
Well, Chris,
Yes.
the other interesting thing is the Arctic Winter Games. There's teams from all the nations of the Arctic that participate, and they just had a championship, didn't they?
Yeah, they have futsal
Futsal,
in there. And the Olympics, the Youth Olympics, they have futsal for 18 and under.
They did it on 2018, by the way, Youth Olympics was the first time they put futsal into the Olympics, was in 2018 in Buenos Aires, yes, Argentina. So,
And it was a big, I think it was one of the 2 most heavily attended events after the 3-on-3 basketball.
and the Youth Olympics are this year again,
I think so.
because they had to hiatus because of.
The problem with the Olympics is that Canada Soccer does not control it. It's the Olympic Committee. And they only have so many people, so they have to lobby them in order to include futsal as part of the participation. And the Olympics only has so many spots in there for sports, so it's political, but it is in the Olympics, the Youth Olympics.
What is in politics? So a little bit about myself. Okay, besides this, I came from somewhere and I did something and so on, right? So I started refereeing my first district level course, 1997. I was like 14 years old or so. And then I got regional level in 2004, 2005, 2007, provincial, and then 2010, 2011, national soccer referee. And then in 2017, I became FIFA futsal referee, okay? Since then, I've traveled some places, mostly France. I've been to the USA multiple times, even with Dan, the best friend, who traveled a lot with me. I enjoy futsal very, very much. I enjoy futsal very much, and I want to continue growing the sport. And in order to learn from, I only had at the time was Bob that only taught me futsal, but you have to go around everywhere else to understand different aspects of futsal because you only know so much. And Bob didn't have, he was one of the founders here for refereeing in futsal in Canada, right? So he only knows so much, and then he taught me all that, and then I had to go look for all the information everywhere else. I have some contacts. Now I have contacts in Europe, I have contacts in CONCACAF, so I always reach out and find information I need. And my first major appointment was 2021 CONCACAF Futsal Championships, which were the World Cup qualifiers as well, for the World Cup that was later on that year in Lithuania. So just to kind of give you some insight, what was going on in 2020 and 2021 in the world?
Height of the pandemic.
Okay, COVID-19. Okay, so COVID-19, but we're not sure if this competition is still happening. This literally 1 month before the tournament. What, Dan? I'm going to use you there. You know everything about when tournament appointments are supposed to be released to referees at the highest level. Tell me what is the time frame for the first appointments to go out? Typically.
Typically 3-4 months.
3-4 months. 12, 16 weeks before the tournament. Why do they release it so far in advance?
Make sure you get your time off work.
One, what else? Training. What else? Travel. Does anyone know the 6 P's? I could do 5, but I like 6 P's. Come on, anybody? Anyone a manager at work, has to talk to teams and stuff?
Preparation.
Sorry?
You mean like preparation?
You're there. It's one of the P's.
Planning.
Okay, what else? All right, I'll make it easy. We're not going to stay here forever. Nikki, how am I doing for time?
15.
We're hard 15?
You're pretty close, yeah.
All right, so we gotta close the door and the lights on me.
Got it.
Can you take me out? So, proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. That's why you need to know 3-4 months before. What do you do when you get an appointment 30 days before the tournament?
You panic.
Sorry?
You panic. Just when
You panic?
Another P.
No. I think this one starts with an F.
Yeah.
I think this one starts with an F. So, subtly we know that one potentially might be coming or not. But now, where do we live? In Canada, right? Okay. Where do all the Central Americans live? Warmer climate, right? So if I'm preparing for something where all the gyms, all the tracks are closed, where do I gotta run and in what temperature do I gotta train?
Right now. Down the streets of Montreal.
You have no idea how cold it is. It's cold. Running. Try running, doing a fitness test at minus 25 outside. Frostbite. Do you know how long it takes your body to thaw after a fitness test? After running for 12 minutes. Long time. Before feeling comes back everywhere. Okay? So this is what I had to do because of COVID. But all these other referees are running nice down the beach, training, looking good, but I have to panic. 7 P's now. I'm going to remember it.
Here's mine.
Sorry?
Here's mine.
I'll give you credit. All right, but the competition started May 3rd. So, I get my flight info 2 weeks before. Do you know what a nightmare it was to travel to Guatemala with all the airlines and all the problems that were going on? How long do you think it took me to get to Guatemala?
I guess 2 days.
About. So, and do you know what my itinerary was? From Montreal? Take a guess, somebody.
Montreal to New York.
Okay, so no, Miami, I went to West Coast. No, in the US, yeah. Close.
Seattle?
San Francisco,
mountain.
San Diego,
Denver.
Lower. Dallas.
Dallas, oh, yeah,
Okay, to Dallas.
DFW.
To miss my flight, because everything was delayed in Montreal, when there's no flights leaving Montreal. Go figure. To miss my flight, to wait another 7 hours, 7 hours to get the next flight to Guatemala. When did I get in Guatemala? I arrived on the 29th. Rather than arriving in the morning, I arrive at night. Okay? And then you have the next day to decompress, pretty much, and then what do you think you have right after? You're jet lagged. You stayed in airports for 2 days, and now you've got to go run a fitness test. Does not sirens going off here? Panic? Does that not send panic in your head? Preparation. You have, so basically, as a FIFA referee, what they want you to do is be prepared for situations like that. Who teaches you how to prepare for situations like that?
Get it to your
Nobody prepares you.
You, Chris, you prepare.
Now, I'm telling you, so when you go back and teach your referees and ever get to this level, I can relate. I could tell them what they must plan for. Okay? So, but before that, do you know that we have to go do COVID tests? Both of them have to show up negative. I have to go to a clinic, negative test, twice in a row. You know, some referees were World Cup candidates, didn't pass their COVID test, and couldn't attend. All this time, 4 years, fail a COVID test, you can't go. It's crazy. Okay? So think about that. All this is all going through your preparation. 1 month, cram time. And then COVID testing every 3 days. 7 a.m. Can you blow that up anyway? Maybe so you can see better.
Oh, we can see pretty well on the side screens here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I arrived on the 29th, my fitness test, I arrived like at night and my fitness test was the next morning at 8 a.m. No sleep, nothing. In the airport for 2 days, whatever. Okay. I passed my fitness test. Okay.
But 40 to 50 minutes looks rough.
That hurts. Try being in red. That's about 8 minutes. I'm unique. Not because I think I'm unique, because my heart says so. I could get to 206 beats when I go max. Okay? So, my heart's gonna pop. Right? I could get a heart attack right there and then. Okay? That is crazy, what I'm showing you right there. To survive a fitness testing like that. But this was all here. I don't care about this. I was all mental. Because I wasn't going home. But more importantly, it's not the top graph that I want you to look at. If anyone noticed, what's the bottom graph?
Altitude.
Altitude. What is the altitude in Guatemala City? Does anyone have any idea?
27. 2 kilometers above sea level?
I didn't prepare for that. You gotta go to Mile High Stadium.
But he missed his flight to get there.
You gotta stop for 2 weeks to basically be able to acclimatize, right? I just landed. I gotta go run a fitness test. How do you prepare for that? And everybody's running like this. That's what it felt like. It felt like the worst day in my life running that test. Okay? So, when you know where the tournament is, you gotta do your geography homework. And bad on me, because I have a bachelor's of science in environmental geography, that I didn't think about that. So that's on me. I didn't do my homework. Okay? Now I know, if you're Central America, it's always, the altitude is high. Even those names, it was tough. Okay, so be prepared, okay? And I don't know how many of you are active referees that have a Polar or a Garmin watch. I watch their fitness, okay? So fitness is your passport, can I say that?
Yes.
Competitions,
Yes.
okay.
This is paramount.
Okay, okay, fitness level for a referee who, this is not my day job. This I do because it's my hobby. But in order for me to go to these competitions, I gotta keep fit. I gotta make sure that I pass my fitness test, because if I don't, you don't go. You can, and I've seen, you can flunk your theory test, you can jack on your theory test, but you pass your fitness test, you still go. You know that. Okay. So they're forgiving on theory, but they are not forgiving on fitness at the high levels. So the 6 Ps, very important at this level of refereeing. Okay? So just to let you know, like I told you, I'm stopping soccer because this is what I'm going to focus on for the next year. No soccer, fitness until next year. I already spoke with Gord, so he says, get your mindset in the right direction. So if you guys are soccer referees, focus on soccer. If you're futsal, focus on futsal. Just to kind of give you an idea of what we used to do during those days, and you have to remember, we're in lockdown. Hotel, every day. Can't leave the hotel, only to go to your game and back. You have security, and I mean you have security. You have guards with shotguns with you going through the stadium and back in the bus. How does that make you feel as a referee? Well prepared. Okay? We're in Central America. It's a different world out there. 5 minutes. Did you give me the yellow card, Nikki?
No, you can.
Okay. The yellow card is the 5, and 2 is the red. So we discussed law interpretations, and as you know, some of the laws have been amended since 2020. 2020, 21, and now we have 22, 23. So some of the laws have been amended since then. We did have everyday laws of the game test, video tests that they kept, keeping our records up, because out of those referees that were there, they have to determine how they're going to select certain referees to referee the quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals. Just to kind of give you an idea, at glances how the days were. So tournaments started May 3rd. So first day, no games. Day 2, I was referee 1. Day 3, timekeeper. Day 6, no games. Quarterfinal, I did a timekeeper. May 4th, go home. So basically, they kept X amount of referees for the semifinals and the finals. And that was kind of my tournament. But basically, the 11 days that I was there were great for learning, training, everything possible. And what I learned there, I bring back here to let our referees know what it is to get to the next level and how to be ready. So when I go next time, I know what I must do, but I don't want anyone to fail when they go there. Okay? There was a video, I had some video clips, but Joe said it's probably going to be
You good?
time. No, but I have the video.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
Okay.
'cause then we would
Are
have
we
some-
already?
yeah, there would have been some discussions, could have lasted a lot longer on them, but coming back, this is coming back, because remember we had the quarantine still, so basically I was gone from my wife and kids for about, give or take, 5 weeks. Okay? My boss said, I can't come. Hey, May's the busiest month of the year. But they understood. It's something that I worked on for 25 years, so fly home, 4:30 a.m. We were told at 11:30 p.m. if we're staying or not that same night. So then, just have to pack my bags and off I went to the airport. Landed in Dallas, then they flew me to Charlotte, landed in Montreal at 3 p.m. So at least I didn't have too many delays coming back. But getting there is always a problem.
You just had the delay in.
So I had
You lost to
to
chalet for a few weeks.
2-day quarantine at the hotel in Montreal. It's a maximum of 3, but they got my results in. So then my wife was so nice that she prepared me 2 large coolers full of food and beer. And she left it in my garage so that we didn't have any contact. Took it, got into my car, and I went to Oscar Mitchell-Cavallo, who was a former FIFA assistant referee. I went to his cottage, and I lived there for about 12 days. Brought my dog with me. I had a companion at least. But that was my whole Guatemala trip. It was basically 5 weeks of that. Okay? But it was fun. I learned a lot, but this is what we do for the sport we love. Okay? Thank you very much. Do you guys have any questions? Please.
I guess, Chris,
Go, Tim first.
how to grow the sport for the future is maybe trying to get the provincial bodies to,
Like Charlie was mentioning.
like Charlie to mention, to get it into the school systems, because the secondary schools are not playing it anymore at all.
So in Quebec, we don't have club futsal for the youth. That is controlled by the high schools. So from 12 till 17, 18, they play in high schools, and we have provincial championships for futsal, school futsal as well. So we have that there. That's something I guess OSA and every provincial body has to discuss, but Soccer Quebec and the RSEQ, which is our student secondary school system, they've already have that in place.
Quebec's done it well, but the other provinces don't really have that.
That is something for management to figure
Yeah,
out.
we actually reached out, because it's part of our strategy, our strat plan, futsal. And we reached out to every district this year and asked who was running leagues, because let's get it going. Right, let's start supporting. We did a lot of work through our TOD on futsal. We had 2 districts come back to us and say they were running a league. And then a bit further into the survey, somebody said, oh yeah, we're probably gonna, a 3rd district said we're probably gonna run a youth league, but I don't know if we got off the ground. That was Peel Holton. I don't know if they ended up with their youth league. But
They did.
and then there's EODSA, and then University of Southwest. Of those that responded, that were doing it. And that's where the struggle is, because people aren't seeing the value in football because they're not seeing futsal. So it has to be like literally here for people to see it.
That's what I was saying, like next CONCACAF qualifier, when Canada would go to next qualifying, the media coverage has to be exquisite in order for people to start seeing it. And if Canada, puts a dent into that tournament, it might start opening some more eyes.
What average player in Canada, they could probably name 3 Canadian men's national team soccer players.
Mhm.
How many could name national team football players? What are we doing wrong?
I think it would be interesting to have a cost analysis of how much it costs to invest in the sport in terms of coaching, match officials, rentals for facility, setting up administrative positions to manage it. When you don't see those numbers and you don't see that direction, it's really hard to say, let's get on board. There's got to be some foundation there that
And we've been waiting for coaching certification, I think, for,
5 years.
sorry, is it 5 or 7 years we've been waiting for?
I've been waiting for it since 2011.
5 years.
But it's finally coming.
Yeah, and yeah, it was announced 5 years ago, and it's at the point now that the provinces create their own. I don't know, I'm not part of that coaching conversation, but how long do you wait?
I mean, the other problem is my friend and I started a futsal league in Kingston 6 or 7 years ago. When COVID hit, one of the local social clubs took over all the facilities. And they're not letting any of them go, and we were unable to get back into any of the gyms to play.
I'm pretty sure that in a lot of your districts, I'm sure there's old schools that gym is not being used for anything. Potentially.
No, they're not. They're being used
They're being used?
all over, every gym that exists in Ottawa
Okay,
is being used by some sport in one way or another.
okay. Is that the same in different parts of Ontario?
Yeah.
Okay, so everything is basically maxed
You
out?
basically have to get in when the school is built,
Okay.
and then you
Sign a lifelong contract?
are there forever because they just roll over each year.
Or get noticed on the national stage for
Yes,
achieving something, and then they're gonna be knocking at your door saying, hey, we've got rental space for you.
possibly, yeah.
So that's the step that somehow Canada Soccer has to get this coaching certification. The officiating is taken care of with the group, we've got the fantastic group of people in Ontario. So how do we get the coaching and the
Or we
tournament?
get funding to build around.
We have Ontario Cup, that's really the only provincial competition.
Exactly, it's very, I don't know, I find Ontario has so much talent that there only is an Ontario Cup is kind of hard to believe.
But how do you run a provincial competition with only 3 leagues across 3 districts, or 3 announced leagues across 3
To
districts?
make it provincial league. Like we did in Quebec.
And then you have to get the buy-in, it's the indoor games then.
Yeah, I think the issue is that they've invested too much into indoor facilities, and this is where now they, like, well, we've already committed so much to indoor facilities for the 7-a-side, which, by the way, FIFA does not recognize what 7-a-side soccer is. It's only North America recognize what 7-on-7 is. So
Just-
FIFA recognizes 11v11, futsal, and beach soccer, that's all.
And an FYI, for anyone building a dome and putting in 3 7-a-side fields, it's about the same number of players that are on each 7-a-side field as a futsal team game. In that same footprint, you can put 4 to 6 futsal fields. So you can either increase your revenue by 25% or possibly double your revenue if you put futsal instead of 7-a-side.
Make a very good point there. Something to take back to your
Yeah.
clubs and.
Chris,
Sorry, please, Charlie.
I did a SWOT analysis for futsal, for our board for strategic purposes to see where things, and I did a risk assessment, and I know the issues, the problems. It is a problem when you just go out. There are a lot of competing interests, and facilities are one of the main things. If you don't have a facility, it's very difficult, especially in the winter months, to have anything outdoor. In the West Coast, you can maybe get away with it a little bit, but not around other parts of Canada. However, the biggest risk is the unaffiliated leagues, and there's a lot of futsal played. I know Ontario, I've had contacts in Ontario, there are a lot of futsal leagues happening, especially in the Toronto area, the ethnic leagues, but I don't know why particularly they don't want to affiliate, whether it's the system, and it happens in most provinces. So I think we have to find some type of solution to make sure that these people come into the system in some way. It's not easy. I've tried a lot of ways, and a lot of people in here have tried too, and it's difficult. Sometimes they don't like the provincial association for whatever reason. The systems maybe aren't agreeable to them or something, but there's got to be some type of way that we can get those unaffiliated groups into the family, because it creates all sorts of problems and issues. Futsal, there's lots of futsal being played in Canada, I tell you, but it's a lot unaffiliated. So, and the problem is, if they're unaffiliated and they're great players, do we say, sorry, you can't come to the national team, the coaches aren't going to pick them? That's the dilemma.
I'm glad where futsal has come in such a time that it's been around. Next goal, I guess, will be beach soccer, find some sand and see if we can get a national. You're practicing the snow.
Snow soccer.
Yeah.
I have to move on to another session, but I'm gonna leave you, because you've got really good conversation going in. So, I'm gonna thank you, Chris,
No problem.
and thank you, David.
You did it.
And, you sat there and looked pretty.
Okay, perfect.
So if you wanna sit and,
Yeah, we'll
watch some
chat.
clips you wanna throw up?
I'll see what I see what I can find.
I don't believe you can tell us.
I'll just chat with people. It'll be easier that way.
47 is over. Yes, are you coming to the meeting still?
Yes, okay,
Naturally.
perfect. I'm all yours. Control. So, in Quebec, some help there, but they have their own